FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.
Welcome. You are listening to the Financial Survival Network. I'm Kerry Lutz. It's April 11th, 2018, and you know that scams are proliferating, but this is no scam. Just send us an email and we will respond with any questions, comments you have, and be a part of the show. Or just use the hotline 914-424-4142. So speaking of scams, well, we always like to talk to Heather Wagenhals to get the latest on what those corrupt, those thieving, no-good-nicks are doing. Heather, welcome back.
Thanks so much for having me.
So, I think it was... P.T. Barnum said there's a sucker born every minute, and then W.C. Fields said, and 2 to catch them. And these things are proliferating.
Yes, and you would think that the FBI, who is, this big, warm, fluffy blanket of security that we're all wrapped in, would be impervious to scams or impersonations. But alas, the FBI themselves have fallen victim to an impersonator.
Yeah. How does that happen?
Well, it's real simple. Cyber actors use all sorts of look-alike, sound-alike. If you remember a few years back, we started with the Verizon 28 scam, where you were going to get a refund if you just went to their webpage. So now what people are doing is they are scamming people pretending to be the Internet Crime Complaint Center. So what happens is these cyber criminals are emailing victims requesting that they provide additional information in order to be paid restitution for a scam that they have reported. So in an attempt to make the emails appear legitimate, the scammers include hyperlinks to news articles which details arrests or apprehensions of internet fraudsters. And the unknown actors right now are also giving text documents to complete and return from the perpetrator. And so the types of things that they are requesting are name, address, date of birth, social security number, the credit card or credit cards that were involved. They want the account numbers. They want the CVV code on the back. They want your expiration as well as your billing zip code. Why? Because they're going to rip you off.
Jeez.
And that's kind of what's been going on. And so these people are just, you're already at wit's end, and they're kind of falling for it, hook, line, and sinker.
Yeah, well, where's the best place to find people to defraud from the population who's already been defrauded and scammed? Because you got to figure they've let their guard down once. They probably are easy pickings to do it again, especially if they think you're trying to help them recover from the initial scam.
Mm-hmm. Well, and it reminds me of what Reagan says. The scariest words are, "We're from the government and we're here to help."
Not quite. Not quite.
Not quite. Not in this case. It's not the real government, but that's what they're doing. So they're playing on your psychological trust of government institutions to provide safety and security for you, whether it's in the physical sense or the financial sense. So it's really easy. And, this is what we always talk about because of what I teach on my, radio show on Unlock Your Wealth Radio is, we've got to look at this not from the scam perspective of what's outside of us, but we have to look internally because this is, I teach a biology-based approach to money management and success, and it doesn't change when you talk about falling for frauds and scams because we inherently trust other people and we want to avoid bad things happening. And if I've already been victimized, I am ripe for the pickings again because I'm vulnerable. And so I'm already kind of on guard, and you're using tools to disarm me by saying you're from the federal government. You're here to help me, and you're promising me return of my money. And so why wouldn't I say yes? I mean, it's the perfect storm if you look at it, if you think about it.
Yeah, well, it's just like a business when they're looking to increase sales, what do? They look at people who've bought from them before and start a campaign. So it's the same basic thing. Let's find the people who've been scammed before and start a scam campaign. So try saying that one 3 times real fast. But they set this campaign up, and they're using sophisticated marketing techniques, just like the big companies use, with call-in hotline numbers and email. It's a drip campaign, and doing all these things to enhance and establish credibility in your eyes, and then they move in for the kill.
Right, you've got it right. And I think you have a new mashup word there. We should just call it a scampaign.
A scampaign. I like that. It's that's what they do. There used to be one and done. All right, they contact you, they try to scam you. If it doesn't work, they're pretty much on to the next, because everybody's a potential chump. But now with technology, they can keep on contacting you both personally and through social media, through email campaigns, through texting if they got your cell phone. I mean, there's multiple points of opportunity to perpetrate the scam, and it's engagement tools, and it's just what modern business seeks to do over the web, using web-based strategies, email, text, telephone, all of these things to help hook you. And that's what the scammers are doing. So you got to give them some credit, because it's downright ingenious. The last time we spoke, we talked about the IRS scam, where they call up, and usually it's a Washington, D.C. area code, but obviously the caller ID has been spoofed. And the guy who called me was like an Indian or Pakistani. I mean, and like, you hear all this noise in the background of other people running the same scam. And there's been a warrant put out for your arrest for tax evasion or something. And people get really scared about this. And instantly I know this is a scam, because the IRS will always communicate with you in writing before they ever attempt to contact you by phone. And they'll almost never contact you on the phone. You generally are the one that has to initiate the phone contact. It's just the way it works, And
right.
And person I knew, she was foreign born, and she got one of these calls, scared to death, and transferred them $9,000.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. $9,000.
And they're playing right there on their survival mechanisms. They triggered her sense of danger,
fear,
and so they scared her with arrests or fines or whatever that they scared her with, and it was enough to catalyze her to take an action. And the action that she took wasn't one that was well thought out or from her most resource state. It was one that she took out of fear. And so we do one of 3 things: fight, freeze, or flee. We know that the brain is diverted from our reasonable critical thinking areas of our brain, and it's diverted to the extremities, so we can do just that: fight, freeze, or flee. And so she wanted to hurry up and fix it. And so she just said, hey, where do I send the money? And off it went.
Yeah.
And so the best thing to do whenever we get any type of physiological threat, and we know that we're not going to lose our life over it, because there is a value to having this survival mechanism. If your life is not in danger of ceasing to exist, then you need to take a step back. You need to breathe deeply and slowly so you can oxygenate your brain. You can do simple things like drink water. It raises your electrochemical conductivity. So it allows you to build up this first layer of defense and gets you back to being critical of the person that's calling you instead of a victim of what they're saying.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, sometimes you just need time. Before you go doing a transfer, whatever, just take an hour. Don't let them create a false sense of urgency. I mean, that is a valid sales technique that's used. Operators are standing by, limited quantities are available. You better go now or you're never going to be able to buy this widget. And it's very effective, the false sense of urgency. But, the negative is that the false sense of urgency makes you do things that if it didn't exist, you wouldn't otherwise do.
Yeah, exactly. And so if your physical life is not in jeopardy, everything is manageable. Yes, it'll be unpleasant, but that doesn't mean that it's not manageable. And the more we can stay calm and in our highest resource state, the more likely we'll be able to create the best possible outcome. But once we start allowing our physiology to take over and we lose resources, we lose options, and we're not going to be effective.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's just like the magician. What they do is they create an illusion, and the magician is distracting you on the one hand, creating this illusion on the other so that you don't really see what's happening behind the curtain, as it were. And that's what these scammers do. They're creating an illusion, provoking an emotional response, and then getting you to act. Very, very dangerous, isn't it? Yeah.
And my pat response is, gosh, I'm so busy, or I'm not in the office right now. How about you call me back and leave me a voicemail message and give me your phone number? I'm driving right now is another one. I'm driving right now. I can't write anything down. Call me back and leave the message on my voicemail, and I'll call you back when I can navigate safely and talk to you on the phone. And either they don't call back or they do and they'll leave a number, but you don't want to call that number. You want to find your own number on the back of your credit card if they're calling about a specific card, or if they're calling about your computer or something else. I know Orbitz was just hacked too recently. So what we want to focus on is that we want to be able to contact the people directly through our own means to verify it's legitimate. And that in itself, just buying that little window of time can save you thousands of dollars.
Yeah. Hey, and a lot more, a lot of time, a lot of grief, a lot of emotional distress. So you really you have to look at this and start thinking that you could be the victim of a scam. In fact, there's a very good chance you'll be. It's kind of like the defensive driving course, where you take that to save money on your insurance. And one of the techniques for defensive driving is, as you're driving down the street, highway, whatever, you use the what if game. And, what if this guy cuts into my lane? What if I got a blowout right now? What if? And that makes you more defensive driver. And I think you need to play the what if game when you get calls on the phone. What if this person is a scammer, right? Mm-hmm. What would I do then? And how would I avoid being scammed, right? All these things.
Well, exactly. Creating a strategy to manage those calls and an overall financial strategy from the protecting your identity standpoint is critical. And we have to remember that monitoring services are just going to tell you once the horses have gotten out of the barn. They're not going to keep the horses in. And so, that's reactive coverage. We have to freeze our credit. We have to really monitor where we're giving out our personal information, especially our social security number, and why. What purpose do they need? If they're not providing you a government sponsored benefit, like if you're collecting disability or you're on Medicare and you need to make a claim, nobody needs your social security number. If you walk into your doctor's office, they don't need your social security number. They need your policy number. Mm-hmm. And the case in point is if a foreigner walked in to a doctor's office and made an appointment, they are not going to have a social security number.
Right.
So every office has an internal way that they can generate an account number for you in place of that social security number. So we really have to be judicious also in where and when we're using our contact information, so we're not inadvertently, giving these scammers more tools.
Yeah, you're so right. So spot on as always, Heather. So what do you think the most threatening scam out there is right now?
Well, our seasonal scam, of course, are taxes, because if you haven't filed, you need to get that done or file an extension by April 15th. But some people are finding out that they're filing their taxes, but they're not getting refunds. And on top of that, not only are they not getting refunds, now they're getting a knock on their door as a possible fraudster because somebody already filed taxes under their taxpayer ID number and has received a refund. And so now they're looking at you as the fraudster. So even if you don't file electronically, you need to go online and set up your electronic filing portal.
Yes.
And you don't want to do that because you lose rights if you file electronically. So, but you need to set up that portal and secure it so nobody else can use it. Mm-hmm. Because what happens is when people get your data, they can request your past tax returns. My house had a fire and I lost everything and I need last year's tax return so I can file this year's. Because you got to have the numbers from last year's in order to fill out this one's properly. And so now they know where you work. They know everything about you. And now they can become you. They can assume your identity. Forget about the theft part. They can just become you and clone you. And that's even worse because, all they have to do is print out new W-2s and fudge the numbers a little bit so it looks like it was inflation adjusted and you made more this year.
Yeah.
And file around the same numbers, and they know how much they're going to get back because they have last year's return, and so they know what last year's refund is. Mm-hmm. And then what they do is they put an account number that goes to some unwitting college student that's looking to make extra money from home, who then, once they get the money, are required to keep part of it as their fee and then forward the rest on to some bank offshore.
Right. Gee, that sounds reasonable.
Yeah, completely. And so, and it's really sad because some of these work from home scams are actually just employing would-be scammers, and they're unwittingly scamming people. They don't even realize what's going on. And, when you're a college kid, somebody tells you can make easy money. Here, I'm going to give you a big chunk, take part of it, and send the rest along.
Yeah. And, and you can guess.
It's almost like, remember chainmail?
Yeah.
Chain letter.
Yeah, right. Chain
Send
letters.
$1. Send $1 to these 5 people in front of you.
Sounds like
Put your
the lottery.
name at the list. Take the person at the bottom.
It's like the lottery, except they do pay off a little bit. But you know about the lottery.
Exactly.
So, yeah.
Yeah, so that's right now, seasonally, that's the big one that we need to be paying attention to. But nobody ever heard of this IC3 one. I think it went under the radar because it came out in February, but that's when we were at the peak of all of this FBI scandal. And so this was nothing compared to like being able to talk about the president and FBI and Russia and all of that crap.
Yep. And that was a huge one. Huge. Took all their resources out of there. Well, hey, sounds like a good time to avoid scams. Be careful. Play the what if game with every person that sends you an email that you don't know or that calls you on the phone, that texts you. What if that person was a scammer? What would you do? And then at least you're going to be defensive and hopefully avoid the scam. Hey, Heather, we want to find out more about you, find out about creating wealth. Where do we go?
If you want to listen to my show, unlockyourwealthradio.com. And then if you are interested in tips, tricks, and tools to help you overcome identity theft, frauds, and scams, visit moneycreditandyou.com.
moneycreditandyou.com. Hey, be part of this discussion. Send us an email, kl@kerrylutz.com. Heather, always a pleasure. Thanks so much for coming on.
You're welcome. Make it a prosperous day, my friend.
FSN Radio. It's all about what's next. Go to financialsurvivalnetwork.com and sign up for your free weekly newsletter. You'll also get 3 free reports. The Financial Survival Network. It's all about what's next.